CNN wants to know, should the Masked Singer have had Rudy Giuliani on its show? No one cares. World War III. Quite possibly World War III. But you got, should CNN have put Rudy Giuliani on The Masked Singer? Inquiring minds want to know. Answer the poll question here. Come on, for real? World War III. World War III is basically right on your threshold, and you want to know if Rudy Giuliani should have been put on The Masked Singer on Fox. Seriously? Can Joe do it might be a better question. What do you know, bro? What do you think about old Joe? Old Joe from Scranton. Can you defend a country? Can you defend a country when today, February 3rd, starting off today, watching the news, and there is an ISIS leader who fell. And clearly that incident was meant to bolster Joe's reputation, to try to make Joe look like before Putin, as though he's someone who can push the button and someone who's going to punch back. The thing about that is Putin is really good at chess, or is it poker? Or is it poker while he's playing chess, or chess while he's playing poker on the side? I forget. But he's really good at one or both or all of those things and everything he does. And he's like a Russian gold medalist at some given point in eating Captain Crunch or something. Only they call it Comrade Commander there. But that whole thing definitely was clearly set up to make Joe look like he's willing to do it. He's willing to push a button. And, you know, that is a tough old man you don't want to mess with. He does do it. He does drop the hammer. He is the ultimate hammer bearer when he has to be. The thing is, again, Putin is really good at calling bluffs, watching for things to be staged. And so right now what they're saying is Putin is a stager. They're saying Russia is a stager. Russia's going to pull off some false flags. But, I mean, certain aspects of the not so red, white, and blue, the more tainted, dark, crimson red, filthy, off pale white, and the blue that used to be the color of police officers' friendly uniforms, which are now just right in front of us, draconian black. Like, I was watching the funeral of fallen officers, and it said sea of blue. There was a sea of blue on the news, but all I see is like straight black with hats that are looking more and more like basically almost like Gestapo-esque type hats, practically. Senior officers of the Nazis. It used to be blue. It used to mean something. It used to mean shielding. And now it is just straight jet black, because as more violence is being done toward the police and we have more and more incidents like this, we are watching how much it gets hiked up, that it is a war zone out there. The stakes are being hyped up. The will to tase and tase without end is being hiked up, because you need to. Now, you know, you need to take action and just crush a skull. So, speaking of false flag, it's about to become more and more common that, you know, they're about to get hurt. As soon as they put on the badge and go out there, they are about to get hurt and someone's going to come for them and shoot them. Speaking of false flag, yeah, I think that those incidents have gone way up for sure, statistically and truthfully, both this time around. But at the same time, what I do want to say, when it comes to false flags, we are no slouches here. So in a way you might think, well, okay, then they're calling it right. If they of all people know false flags, they're calling it right. But really it's more like pointing the finger, like, I will false flag about your false flag before you can false flag about my false flags. In any direction you look, it's all just red flags. Red flags, scummy off-white, pale, grody flags, and blue flags that were once honorable, now just becoming a gross, draconian, tyrannical black. I appreciate the danger of that job, but what we are seeing and what we're about to see, and certain other major world events have been used to lead up to this and stage up to this, is that we are getting closer and closer to a world police. with no limits, who will essentially be worshipped as the left smashing hand of an absolute authoritarian government push. And when it comes to 3,000 troops planted across Europe, how's that old saying go? If you're about to pull a gun, you better be able to use it and ready to use it. 3,000 troops is not even pulling a gun. It's pulling out a bullet. And it's saying that you might drop it into one of the chambers, then pull back the hammer. Maybe. It depends on what the other person does. And then maybe you'll spin the barrel, maybe you'll pull back the hammer, maybe you'll point it at them, maybe you'll even point it at your own head. That's how useless that gesture really is. You might as well not do it or go all out, balls to the wall, balls out, and get as much as you can and post up hard and post up fast, right with Ukraine, if you really think of them as that valuable and that much of a NATO partner. And the thing else that I could say, kind of veering off course here, is that I do know how the Ukraine has long been a staging point for everything from black arms dealing, other black market affairs, human trafficking, child trafficking, slavery, straight up disappearances of all different kinds of drugs. And again, once again, I will say it, black market arms trading and arms dealing. So as much as we might see in the mainstream media how Putin is the bad guy, et cetera, he's hatching this evil world domination plan and just being a bully. At the same time, because of what's gone on with that and that being allowed to build up over time, is that essentially the Russia-Ukraine border, he's not just going in and attacking a quote-unquote brother nation like we're seeing in the news. Basically, that border is his Mexico, and he should be able to handle that as he wants. Honestly, it's his Mexico. He's doing at that borderline, when it comes to all that, the human trafficking, the black market arms dealing, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying I'm a Putin fanboy at all whatsoever. This shouldn't be that controversial. What should be controversial is what was allowed to go on at our own U.S.-Mexico border in the south, that we haven't done that. There might be people who would look at America and say, oh, well, America is basically evading just about or oppressing Mexicans who are good people who would just come in here to get jobs. But really, we should have shown up at that border way more. We should have been way more active at that border. And I think, based on what education I do have, what news that I do read from various different outlets, not just one source, both even the mainstream bullcrap and the more fringe integrity, still has a lace of integrity left news outlets that are out and about trudging through the world and trying to drag up some kind of stories and articles from the dredges that still mean something about what's actually going on, rather than just looking out for the corporate agenda. Just like we should have been way more active at the border before it's blown up into an issue like this with fentanyl everywhere and people in Texas like, who's that looking through my window tonight? Now we have human trafficking here, and the cartels have brought insane amounts of human trafficking back here. We are seeing crime on the rise. That's exactly why we are seeing officers more and more get plugged as they go out. What you don't realize here is that it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice from those who are willing to be villainous and dastardly and sinister and corrupt and basically put cops out there to get hurt on purpose in order to make them backed into a corner where they feel they've got to be more and more aggressive, more and more draconian. They're not just being that way for their own selves, because it means acting more and more aggressive means there's more of a chance that they'll get back home. It is for someone who is paying for them to be scared, just the way George Soros paid off so much of Black Lives Matter riots to be scared and act in fear and cause the other side to, like, you have cause and effect, you have a push, you have a greater push right back to try and end it with a greater push back once and for all. So that's how the aggression, that's how the friction has upped the ante and then upped the ante more. And so we see definitely see those who have owned these soldiers just like Russian soldiers are owned, just like American forces are owned, and just like NATO forces are owned. They are all owned, even those rebel Ukraine freedom fighters, the rebel Ukrainian troops, they are owned. They are owned by something, bought and paid for 100% by corporate, billionaire, wealthy, elite, those who would think of themselves as making the world turn and providing for those of us who are either useless eaters or cattle of some sort, just consumers, numbers in a bucket every day. A giant pig feed trough sty bucket that they wouldn't sit next to us for lunch if one of our kids was dying of cancer and that was their Make-A-Wish Foundation entry. It is all bought off and paid for and owned by something. So, yeah, none of this would be going on if all those involved that feed what they want to do in their agendas over up there up at the top of all the pyramids, if they decided not to be owned, if they consciously said, today is the day, boom, rolling out of bed, I'm not going to be owned, I'm not going to be bought and paid for by any corporate affair, event, agenda, collective. I'm going to do my best to wake up here and be myself. And maybe be myself, own up responsibility for myself, what goes on in my own house. That's one of the terrible things that's going on here, is you notice more and more, like I said in some of the Station Mercury uploads I've done, is that we've turned on each other. We are willing to do the job of faceless government and corporate owners fulfilling their corporate wishes without even realizing it. We roll out of bed, we film our next door neighbors, we report our next door neighbors to everything from neighborhood homeowners associations because of too many weeds. I know that's annoying, too many weeds is pretty gross, but the reality is that just the fact is, it's the principle behind what I'm saying. You know, we record and report our own neighbors, our own loved ones, people who may be strangers, but they could be strangers who, if you just chilled for a minute and owned up to your own self, might end up being able to provide a bit to your world and vice versa, you know, in a bit of a loop there, a feedback loop of something other than stale, crusty, nasty, pale off-white, draconian black, instead of good old trustworthy, solid, stalwart blue that watches out for you in your best interest and actually is service the way that color is. You know, the true blue serviceman it used to be. Now it's just black, tase you, mace you, kick you in the face if you aren't wearing your mask the way you've been told. The way you've been told, because all this is, you know, it splits down to a crossroad where it goes two directions, or it doesn't go much of a direction at all and it just sits there and gets stagnant. But the two directions would be based in fear or based in just a little bit of a stipend, a little bit of a gain that's a pat on the head. And then ever the two, just like the serpents along the staff for what we see in the medical logo, ever the two just wind back into each other, but rather than going up, they are going down fast in a tailspin. But we would like you to answer our poll question. Do you think that Fox on The Masked Singer should have had Rudy Giuliani on the show? I mean, like, the judges, there were actually judges who were weak enough to walk off. Like, who cares? Is he not an American yet? And then they'll be like, well, he shouldn't be. Well, why not? Because you disagree with what happened? I mean, he's done more for this country than you have, and you're walking off as the judge of some stupid little entertainment hour. As the nation, the very fabric of the nation in almost every sense of the word, is being ripped apart from the inside and the outside, and the inside agrees with the outside and shakes hand to get a deal done, and vice versa. And you're not noticing that? Got better things to do, better shows to watch. You realize that if an EMP were to drop, there wouldn't be TikTok anymore. I'm just wondering if there's some people out there that don't know that's the case. I mean, that very well could be. If there are people out there who actually thought the whole thing about, I don't know, are they injecting bleach in China? You think maybe we should inject bleach over here? People took that seriously. Maybe they take this seriously too. So that they haven't actually taken the time to think through if an EMP were to drop, you might have to deal with napalm from a transformer from a power line, but there won't be TikTok anymore. So there you go. Just a bit of food for thought. Because one thing that we Americans might start taking more seriously, those of us who still call ourselves America, are there any left? Are there any left? Those of us who call ourselves Americans still, because we are actually fighting the good fight. And we care about things like, the Constitution, which set us apart from being a British colony under British tyranny, British imperial monarchy, oligarchy tyranny, colonies. They wanted us to be a British colony extension. You know how we said no? And then we came up with a constitution. We came up with a constitution because, we have this thing called a memory where we still were going on basically what the theme or the thrust, the wavelength of what the Library of Alexandria was and is and what it brought to history that I mentioned before, why it would be important, why you wouldn't want to give it to, say, someone who owns Meta or like an expansion of virtual reality, like completely consuming your reality at all. It used to be that you were just playing World of Warcraft till you peed your pants. But now you've completely given up this world for an extra shitty one. Yeah, I can tell you why that tanked, and there was one of the biggest billion-dollar losses with CEO Mark Zuckerberg is I would probably say that Metaverse is not yet a kill universe. When the whole virtual reality thing, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg who owns it or someone else, like he said in the interview with Gary Vaynerchuk that I've mentioned, is that he's like, virtual reality is here. That's true too, to the extent that whether he owns it or someone else is doing it, it is absolutely happening. Transhumanism, absolutely happening. Just natural state as our whole world just opens up with technological avenues through the ceiling to the point it's going to take falling off the bike. This is still the training wheels stage of, even though it seems like we're technologically a peaking society, this is really still the training wheel stage of making mistakes left and right with technology. And just based on the continual decline of society, virtual reality is only really going to catch fire. Any real metaverse is only going to really catch fire. And I would say at first, especially if it is corrupt and it has the promise of everything, it reflects everything we see going on wrong right now in this society in decline, which is almost like a virtual Ukraine. It is going to be a stomping ground for meetups for all kinds of black web, black market, dark market, whatever you want to say. Dark web, black market stuff. It's going to happen, but it will catch fire most of all as a trap, basically, and an ensnarement of the dragon's reach. If the dragon's reach is if you've got, like I just called the left hand, that left hand ready to smash. What used to be blue officers is now dressed all in black, a world draconian, absolute authoritarian structure police. The new infrastructure, it will be the other hand, and if not the other hand, if something else is the other hand, it will basically it will function a lot like the mouth of Sauron. Most people don't know what I'm talking about, but geek stuff. Or if you will, almost like the inverted, scuzzy, just abyssal vortex of the dragon overall, the great fallen dragon overall. So, and it's sad, but that's probably why Mark Zuckerberg failed. Is as much no matter what you think of him, this whole $1 billion crash, major billions and billions of dollars crash when it comes to Meta and Facebook going stagnant, is because he wasn't prepared to make that thing what people really want it is that virtual reality gets big and blows up to where you feel like you're hanging out and completely left your world behind. It is going to be just a den of grossness, unfortunately, that will reflect the state of the world in decline. So it will be a kill festival, just like you see what happened from, I was watching this documentary High Score on Netflix, but what you see happen from way back when it was Doom, and Doom was considered dark when it first came out, like, whoa. And now you see just the most intense graphic violence ever, first-person shooter style. So that's what it will look like. You've got to protect yourself, and hopefully you would want to protect yourself. I would think most people's logic, common sense, one of the first things you do, root, base matters, survival, protection. You would want to protect yourself. So, in as much as it might seem like a great idea, a lot of the stuff we're doing right now that we think is to protect ourselves is not even going to matter in the long run. Because if we're looking at World War III starting, I can tell you what a lot of Americans also don't know is this will be a world war. This will be an event that will not be completely on foreign soil this time around. Almost like it was portrayed in a famous video game that popularized the first-person shooter genre. It was actually a Modern Warfare, especially as Modern Warfare 2 hit. What was the other one? I didn't play. I played some Modern Warfare 2. Got addicted to video games, even with one prosthetic arm. Got really good at it. I was one of the best Modern Warfare 2 players. And people in the lobby would be like, "One arm? What? You've got to be bullshitting me." So, Black Ops, that was it. I didn't really play Black Ops that much because it seemed to always frickin' lag out on me. And by the time Modern Warfare 2 hit so big, it was campers, it was lag, it was everything I didn't like. Is Modern Warfare 2 started to get hacked and just went way beyond popularity to there was nothing you could even do anymore. So, and it got old. And I'm glad I got away from it. I'm glad I was able to pull out of that whole gaming world and get back into being a bit more productive. So I'm able to do stuff like this now, whereas I would just be gaming for hours and hours. And like I said, it used to be we would play MMORPGs until we were just about to burst in our pants. And we finally had to tell everyone to hang on and get up and go use the bathroom. And that's the thing. It's no joke when you leave the world behind. When you leave the world behind that way, it's disgusting. We're already doing it just with our smartphones even. And those who just have some apps, like I'm an Android user, and you can't fit very many apps. If you know Androids, the data storage is just a fraction of iOS. So, I don't have that many apps, and I've been pulled into where I'm playing a game just way too much. Tower Defense was mine especially, and so I was able to curb back from that. But anyway, so you know what kind of a world you end up in, that you end up prioritizing and caring about. Should Rudy Giuliani have been a contestant on Fox's The Masked Singer, which caused 2 judges to walk off stage in a huff? CNN would like you to answer this poll. Your corporate sponsors have paid good money to get this poll advertisement in front of you. Please click one of the options and check off what your opinion is. You know what happens when you do that? Your opinion gets thrown in the garbage, actually. Your once strong American constitutional-backed voice ends up less for you. It ends up in the garbage, literally. It looks like you are getting a say, but corporate sponsorship is to take it away. So, and take it away indeed. That's what I've got time for with this So thanks for listening in. Hopefully this has churned some gears in your head, and if not, I don't know what to tell you.
You are not ready for how dope things are about to get.